Good evening, friends. Friends, now since it is confirmed that Mr. Joe Biden will be the next president of United States, and even Mr. Donald Trump has accepted it, though not in words, because he's a politician, and I think he will be contesting. He will at least try to contest the next presidential election as well, and I think he may buy some big TV channel, TV news network, and by which he would be in touch. He will be in touch with the American voters for coming 4 years. Who knows? So that is the reason behind his tone. But I think he has also accepted it, and most of the Republicans has also accepted it. So since a few days, I was doing some research upon what Mr. Joe Biden must do to ensure American as well as American allies' interests. So I think, first of all, Mr. Joe Biden must ignore the advice of the likes of Mr. Henry Kissinger, though people may call him a diplomatic eagle or anything. But actually, he was the one who mainstreamed the so called untouchable China. And just some days back, he was warning that the two powers, that is America and China, are headed towards a conflict akin to World War One. But I think Mr. Joe Biden must ignore these warnings, and he must continue with the Trump administration's counter China policies. And right now, what China wants that both Washington and Beijing must compile list of various bilateral issues and then take the tough issues off the table and discuss the goody ones so that it will minimize the impact and harm on the overall Sino-US relationship. But meantime, what China is doing with another democracy, that is Australia, they are actually putting them under sanctions, under harsh economic sanctions. We know that Australia, one third of Australian exports are dependent upon Chinese markets, especially the agricultural exports and the exports of mining industries. And recently, China has given a letter of 12 or 14 points, and according to Chinese, the Australians must meet these demands if they want to do business with China and they don't want Chinese economic sanctions on Australia. And what these demands are, that Australia must stop exposing the Chinese Communist Party's poisonous efforts on its soil, wherein they are mingling or they are poisoning the internal politics of Australia. We have seen the drama some time back. The state of Australia, the state of Victoria was standing against the federal government of Australia. So they are actually poisoning the internal politics of Australia. But the Chinese Communist Party of Beijing want that the Australian authorities should not expose that. They also want Australia to shut up its mouth on issue of Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Uyghur Muslims. They also don't want that Australia should continue calling for an independent investigation into the origins of coronavirus pandemic. So it is nothing but a naked dance of economic extraction by China. And Mr. Joe Biden must try to understand that today it is Australia, tomorrow it can be South Korea, day after it can be Japan, and one day, if things continue like that, a day may come when China will do the same naked economic dance with America also. If China is not checked, so he must check China and continue with the counter China policies of Donald Trump administration. He should not listen to people like Henry Kissinger's advices. Then I think he must continue with the Trump's policy of troops cutting down the size of American troops in the Middle East. And there was a survey some time back in America wherein 3 out of 4 Americans want their boys to get out from Iraq and Afghanistan. And Mr. Donald Trump has understood this thing. So, even after losing the presidential election, he is continuing withdrawal of troops. So much so that the troops will come home even 5 days before the presidential inauguration of Mr. Joe Biden, because he might be giving a message to the American voters. See, this is, you want this, I am doing this. Now it may help him next time in the next presidential election if he is contesting. But I will recommend that Mr. Joe Biden should cut down the size of American troops in Middle East and must, but he should transfer those troops in the Indo-Pacific region and specifically in the South China Sea, so that it can check the Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific region. And why I am saying that? Because America might be the number one economy in the world. They are an economy of around 22 trillion US dollar. But still, any country, no country has got, no country has got what you will say. You can, no country has got so much so resources that they can pour in everywhere, not even America. If they are a $22 trillion economy, their resources are definitely less than $22 trillion, because they have to manage their home, they have to manage their internal defense, they have to manage their military, they have to manage research and development, and many other expenses are there. So they must cut down the sizes of troops there in Middle East and must do the deployment in Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific region, and particularly in the South China Sea region. Then he should not, but he should, while cutting down the numbers of troops in Iraq or in Afghanistan, he must not do what Mr. Donald Trump is doing. He is not doing right by cutting down without consultation with the local government or with the NATO or with the regional powers, like in case of Afghanistan, India is the regional power. So I think the cutting down but impulsive withdrawal of troops must be avoided, because it will lead to long term losses. And let me give you two examples. It was Mr. Barack Obama who, in 2011, withdrew lots of troops from Iraq. And what happened after that? ISIS came into being. Before that, there was no ISIS. Then, when it was the era of USSR Afghanistan war. That time it was CIA who was working against the Soviet troops, and because of the CIA operatives, USSR lost it. They lost the war because of CIA operatives and the huge money which United States poured in. They also gave Stinger missiles and lots of weaponry. But what happened when USSR lost the war? American Congress denied spending in the positive works in Afghanistan, like in case of education, social indexes, upliftment of social indexes, strengthening of democracy, and and they exited the country. And what it led to? It led to the occurrence of monster called Taliban. And I think you must have watched that movie, Charlie Winston's War. And in the end of that movie, when Mr. Winston failed to pursue American Congress to invest positively in Afghanistan, he used a dialogue. I'm not using the full dialogue because he used the F word there. He said, "We F up the end game." So I will request Mr. Joe Biden, do not F up the end game anywhere. We don't want to see any other monster like ISIS or Taliban on our beautiful earth. Then Mr. Donald Trump must act as a global leader, and he should not continue with the Trump's policy of protectionism, because one should understand that America has greatly benefited from the concept of globalization. Now, protectionism is just reverse case of globalization, and when the global leader acts like that, it sends a very wrong message. And I think Mr. Joe Biden will be promoting globalization, but he must promote globalization in a positive manner, in which he must his policies must be beneficial to the allied countries, to the friendly countries, like for India, like for Japan, like for ASEAN countries, and like for Israel or Saudi Arabia or countries like that who are allies of United States, not with and the policies should not be beneficial to China. See, China was nothing, it became elephant in the room, and it became elephant in the global political room because of the globalization, and globalization which was given by the United States to China. China benefited in economic terms due to its trade with United States as well as Europe. So this time the fruits of globalization, to be very precise, the fruits of globalization should not go into the hands of Chinese, but it must fall into the basket of friendly countries. Thank you.